Donald Trump has delivered a major salvo in his trade war, this time aimed squarely.
Trump slammed the trade button, and Canada just flipped the entire board. Canada just dropped a brutal metal curtain on U.S. exports, and this could be the start of a full-blown trade war.
Trump said the U.S. will charge Canada a tariff of 35% on Canadian products.
It all started in March 2024, when Trump rolled out what many now call his most aggressive economic strike yet. In a move that stunned both allies and markets, he invoked Section 232, citing national security to justify a sudden hike in steel and aluminum tariffs from 25% to 50% overnight. And this wasn't just aimed at China. Nope, Canada, Mexico, and even NATO allies were now in the crosshairs. Standing at a podium with steelworkers flanking him, Trump declared, "Weak steel means weak borders." He framed the entire issue not as trade, but as national defense. The fallout, immediate and brutal. The Chicago Metal Exchange went into meltdown. Futures hit their limit-down thresholds in hours. Over in Detroit, auto plants were scrambling. Why? Because their lifeline, Ontario's high-strength steel, just got locked up behind new borders. Supply lines froze, and production schedules shattered. Meanwhile, the U.S. dollar surged by 1%, signaling sheer panic across global markets. Analysts were already ringing alarm bells about a ripple effect that could shake everything from construction to defense contracting. And this was just Trump's opening move.
We're going to fight, we're going to protect, and we're going to build. And all of them are important now.
Trump thought he fired the first shot, but Canada just launched a precision strike. Ottawa didn't wait. Within days, they rolled out a historic retaliation package, starting with a 25% base tariff on U.S. metals. But here's the twist. These tariffs aren't fixed. They dynamically adjust based on how negotiations go. If talks stall, the rate climbs. If Trump digs in, the screws tighten. It's the first time in trade war history we've seen tariffs weaponized this way. Then came the real blockade, the Meltcast rule. On paper, it sounds technical. In reality, it's devastating. It means any Chinese steel that's reshaped or processed in the US or Mexico is now blocked from Canadian entry. Even if it touches Americans, it's treated as foreign. That alone cuts off a massive flow of exports. To back this up, Canada launched the BETCO program, a $10 billion lifeline for manufacturers to rescue and rebuild domestic supply chains. The message is crystal clear. If America wants a trade war, Canada's not just ready, they're investing in it. And then Mark Carney, Canada's economic heavyweight, stepped up with his fiery Single Canada speech. For the first time in 3 decades, Ottawa officially walked away from the dream of North American trade integration. Carney declared, it's time Canada stood alone. Ports like Vancouver went into chaos. Regulations dropped overnight. Industry scrambled. The Iron Curtain wasn't just symbolic, it was real, sharp, and closing fast. And just when U.S. companies thought it couldn't get worse, Canada hit the nuclear button on procurement. From now on, any federal project in Canada, be it pipelines, warships, or cross-country rail, is legally required to use Canadian melted steel. That wipes out nearly all U.S. bids, even ones already on the table. Defense, infrastructure, and energy, off limits unless they're born and melted in Canada. And here's the kicker. These rules are retroactive. Steel and aluminum products imported since January 2025 are suddenly facing new quotas and restrictions, trapping millions of goods mid-transit. What's already arrived? Frozen. What's en route? Rerouted or rejected. Over at the Halifax shipyards, new Arctic patrol ships for the Royal Canadian Navy were immediately switched to Canadian steel only, handing a surprise boom to domestic mills. Meanwhile, U.S. containers sat stacked in Vancouver, unable to unload. Contracts ripped up, timelines destroyed, and trust gone. This wasn't just policy, it was war through paperwork. And for American exporters, the message was clear: adapt or get shut out.
Taking part in the joint signing ceremony of a new information sharing agreement between the two countries. Anand and her Japanese counterpart.
Just when Washington thought this was a Canada-only feud, the rest of the world said, "Hold my steel." The European Union was the first to jump in. They rolled out what they're calling the Steel Waiting Shield. It's a fancy name for temporary tariffs aimed at blocking cheap U.S. metals from flooding their market. Brussels made it clear, this isn't just about economics anymore. They called Trump's tariffs political warfare, and they're treating it that way. Built with Canadian aluminum alloys, now trapped behind Canada's metal curtain. Next up, Japan. Tokyo rerouted its massive aluminum supply chain, originally meant for U.S. factories, straight to Canada. That's right. Japan is now giving Canada the metal lifeline America once had, all while making sure their trade deals keep flowing uninterrupted. And then came South Korea, following suit, quietly adjusting export rules and cozying up to Ottawa with joint manufacturing agreements. Behind closed doors, the pressure exploded at the G7 summit. What was supposed to be a routine meeting turned into a diplomatic cage match, Trump versus Carney. Leaks from the room revealed Trump gave Canada a 30-day ultimatum to back off or face serious consequences. Canada didn't blink. Meanwhile, WTO delegates were flooded with emergency filings as the U.S. threatened to file formal complaints. But the rest of the world, they're siding with Canada. They're seeing this not as a policy debate, but as a global showdown between nationalism and economic cooperation. And with allies turning rivals and trade partners picking sides, this metal war is no longer just North American, it's global. If you want to see real panic, look no further than Detroit. The heartbeat of America's auto industry is now skipping beats fast. Ford, GM, and Stellantis, all three giants rely heavily on Ontario's high-strength steel to build everything from trucks to electric chassis. But now, that steel is stuck at customs, frozen under Canada's new rules. Production lines are grinding to a halt, factories are going dark, and workers are being sent home. And it's not just cars. Boeing and SpaceX are feeling the heat too. Their cutting-edge projects, built with Canadian aluminum alloys, now trapped behind Canada's metal curtain. Engineers are calling it a crisis. Schedules are breaking, budgets are bleeding. Even Michigan's steel producers, the few that might have gained from this, they're warning of catastrophic line stoppages because the industry is just too integrated with Canadian imports. Detroit press lines are idle, aerospace CEOs are storming Washington, and Trump, he's running out of answers. So Trump's team thought they could ease the pain with an exemption system. Spoiler alert, it's a nightmare. To get around Canada's blockade, U.S. exporters now have to prove that Canada can't make the product locally. Sounds simple? Think again. Companies are forced to submit a 10-part document file, complete with material specs, sourcing breakdowns, and domestic availability reports. It's a bureaucratic maze that most companies can't even navigate. While U.S. firms choke on red tape, Canada is moving fast. A Montreal steel plant just imported German machinery to replace U.S. nickel-chromium alloys entirely, cutting American suppliers out for good. This isn't just about tariffs anymore. It's about using paperwork as a weapon. Ottawa isn't shouting, they're just smirking, watching U.S. exporters drown in delays, confusion, and silence. And every day that passes, another contract gets canceled, another shipment gets rerouted, another American business loses to bureaucracy.
Bonjour tout le monde. Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Bodicher, and I'm pleased to welcome you all to the Bank of Canada and this morning's press conference about today's interest.
The fight just left the factories and entered the banks. To shield its economy from tariff whiplash, the Bank of Canada moved fast, activating hedge ratios to guard against a rise in U.S. dollar financing costs. Translation? If the dollar gets more expensive, they're ready to protect the loonie and keep Canadian trade rolling. Meanwhile, over at the Federal Reserve, alarm bells are ringing. Steel and aluminum prices are soaring, and that could mean one thing: inflation. Again. Just when the Fed thought it had tamed rising prices, this trade war might blow it all back up. And there's a money shift happening behind the scenes. Pension funds and big investors are now moving billions into Canadian green steel projects, ditching U.S. scrap metal, which is suddenly looking way riskier. Over at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, traders are in full-blown scramble mode. Metals, currencies, futures, it's chaos, and the storm's not over yet.
Trump is training his sights on Canada.
We will make sure that we defend our workers.
That has been
Mark your calendars. July 16th could be the day this all explodes. That's when Canada's dynamic tariffs automatically spike higher if there's no deal with Washington. And right now, talks are going nowhere fast. Two possible outcomes are on the table. One, Trump blinks. He pulls Canada out of the crosshairs, carves out an exemption, and saves Detroit from collapse. It'd be a strategic retreat, but maybe the only way out. Or two, he doubles down. If that happens, the trade war goes fully hot. We're talking permanent tariffs, total supply chain chaos, and possibly the fracturing of the USMCA, the very agreement that's kept North American trade flowing for decades. But there's a wild card, the EU's bond market. If Brussels intervenes with financial backing for Canadian steel producers, they could undercut US metals entirely, turning this into a global price war. Markets are already bracing. Futures for July 16th just spiked. Wall Street's holding its breath. And Trump, he's running out of time and options. Canada's metal curtain isn't just a tariff, it's a declaration of economic independence. With US factories going dark and allies rallying behind Ottawa, the balance of power has shifted. The world's most peaceful border? Now it's the front line. If this blew your mind, like, share, and subscribe. We're just getting started.